Some people don't vanish because they stopped caring. They vanish because they finally understood something the rest of us are still refusing to see. You've felt it, that slow drift. Fewer replies, shorter calls. A friend group that used to feel like home now feels like a room you're standing in out of habit. You tell yourself you're just busy, tired, going through a phase, but somewhere underneath that explanation is a quieter, stranger truth you haven't said out loud yet. What if you're not pulling away from people? What if you're pulling toward yourself? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to recognize someone, and it might be you. Psychologists have a name for what happens right before this disappearing act begins. They call it pattern recognition, and once it switches on, it never fully switches off again. It starts small, a laugh that arrives half a second too late, a compliment that somehow leaves you feeling smaller instead of seen, a friend who resurfaces exactly when they need something and vanishes the second you don't have anything left to give. At first, you explain it away. Everyone has an off day. Everyone gets busy. But your mind keeps a ledger you didn't ask it to keep, and eventually, the ledger stops lying to you. That's the first reason intelligent, self-aware people quietly disappear. Not arrogance, not superiority, awareness. They start noticing the gap between what people say and what people do, and once that gap is visible, it never closes again. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. This isn't a story about other people being fake. It's a story about you finally being honest. Because the second reason is darker than the first, and almost nobody talks about it. It isn't that intelligent people enjoy solitude, it's that ordinary noise starts to physically exhaust them. Every conversation becomes two conversations at once, the words being said and the motive sitting quietly underneath them. While everyone else is enjoying the moment, some part of your brain is already dissecting it. Why did they say it that way? What are they really asking for? What are they avoiding? That's not a gift. Some days it feels like a punishment. A party that used to feel electric starts to feel like static. A group chat that used to feel like belonging starts to feel like performance. And the cruelest part is that nothing around you changed. You did. Which means there's no villain to blame, no clean explanation to give people when they ask why you've gone quiet. Just a slow, private erosion of tolerance for anything that isn't real. So the question stops being, how many people know me? It becomes something much heavier. Who actually understands me? And the moment that question takes root, your circle doesn't shrink by accident. It shrinks on purpose, one quiet exit at a time, long before anyone notices you're already gone. Now here's the part that changes everything you think you know about this. Carl Jung once suggested something unsettling, that until a person turns inward and confronts what's actually happening in their own mind, they will keep mistaking their own reactions for fate. Intelligent people eventually stumble onto a version of this without ever reading a page of Jung. They start to notice that most people aren't reacting to them at all. People are reacting to their own fear, dressed up as opinion. The coworker who tears apart your idea in the meeting isn't seeing your idea. He's seeing his own stalled progress reflected back at him. The friend who can't stop interrupting isn't confident. She's terrified of being forgotten mid-sentence. The person who needs to know where you are every hour isn't protective. He's abandoned, somewhere far in his past, and still bracing for it to happen again. Once you see this clearly, something inside you goes quiet. You stop taking the noise personally because you finally understood it was never about you in the first place. And that quiet isn't coldness. It's the exact moment emotional intelligence takes over where emotional exhaustion used to live. You stop replying to every provocation, stop attending every argument you're invited to, not because you don't care, because you finally learned that saying yes to the wrong person is always, quietly, a no to yourself. And that's when the real transformation begins, not the one people can see, the one happening in total silence. Here's the misunderstanding almost everyone makes about people like this. They assume the silence means loneliness. It doesn't. It means clarity. For the first time, silence stops being empty and starts being spacious. It becomes the one place where your own thoughts are finally louder than everyone else's expectations. Psychology backs this up. Periods of intentional solitude are linked to sharper self-reflection, steadier emotional regulation, and better long-term decisions. That's not a coincidence. That's the entire point. While everyone else is chasing visibility, this person is quietly assembling a version of themselves nobody handed them, reading more, questioning old beliefs instead of inheriting them. And somewhere in that process, the need for outside approval starts to starve, slowly, on purpose. Because real confidence was never built from applause, it was built from the moment you stopped needing it. That's when the question underneath every decision changes for good. It stops being, how do I fit in? It becomes, does this life actually belong to me? Once that question exists, there is no walking it back. From the outside, it looks like someone disappeared. From the inside, they finally stopped disappearing from themselves. But here's the truth almost nobody tells you, and it's the part that lingers the longest. This never happens overnight. Nobody wakes up and decides to disappear. It happens one realization at a time, spread across months you didn't even notice were adding up. One day you stop debating people who already decided not to understand you. Another day you stop casing friendships that only exist when you're useful. Then, without ever announcing it, you start building a life that no longer needs anyone's permission to feel valid. To everyone watching, it looks sudden. It never is. It's been growing quietly underground for longer than you'd admit. So if you've caught yourself stepping back lately, from group chats, from people, from rooms that used to feel safe, don't rush to call it antisocial. Ask yourself something harder instead. Are you running from people, or are you finally walking toward the version of your life you kept postponing? Because sometimes the people who seem to be disappearing aren't lost at all. They're the only ones in the room who finally found themselves. And maybe, if you're honest with yourself right now, that's not someone else's story you just watched. That's yours.